And now, to start off your week, here's Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders' panicked response to a question about concern over drone sightings on NBC's Meet the Press.
Senator, I have to ask you about this story that has captured the country's attention, these reports of purported drones flying over New Jersey, other parts of the East Coast. A Biden administration official said, quote, there's been a slight overreaction to these reports. I wonder, what do you make of the Biden administration's reaction so far? Are you satisfied by the administration's reaction?
I honestly don't know anything more about that than what I read in the papers. Sorry, can't give you great insight on that.
Are you concerned, though?
Am I concerned? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. What can I tell you? Yes, I'm concerned.
Stand up. Yeah. What do you think? Are you worried? Are you concerned about the drones? I've got a great clip from the master debunker, Mick West, talking all about these drones. Put you at ease. I'll play that for you coming up. But first, a great conversation with The Hue. The ladies of The Hue are my very special guests on today's show. What a wide-ranging, awesome conversation with these four longtime listeners who I've made guests, and we've really come together to create a great segment for you today covering a lot of ground. If you want to skip to The Hue right now, that conversation begins at 42 minutes. But I hope you'll stay for headlines, clips, and it's time for the good stuff, which is what I do right here at the beginning of each and every weekday's show. I hope you had a great weekend, everybody. This is the last full week before Christmas kicks in, starts, and Hanukkah. Mid next week is the 24th, 25th. I'm very happy to have you here joining me. I'll host a Hangout tonight and this Thursday night. At least that's the plan. Also, hoping to continue to go live at noon almost every day this week on YouTube. YouTube.com/standupwithpete. I may be there. I may not. Nobody's really counting on it, but I do like to record, tape my interviews live, as well as hopefully grow the YouTube audience and have some kind of structure, some kind of actual schedule to my days. Certainly helpful to any of those of us who are independent contractors, entrepreneurs, content creators, podcasters, whatever I am. I'm happy to have you here for it. So check that out at noon. I'll see you tonight at 8 East, Thursday at 8 East. That's what's coming up on my week, and I hope to have you joining me. Thank you very much for pressing play on today's podcast, for subscribing. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic is where you go to support me for this otherwise free podcast, ad-free podcast. I can't do it without you, so thank you very much. Well, every day also when you press play, you've got the good stuff here, and it's hopefully inspiring and hopeful and start your day off right. I love this idea that many of you will press play early in the morning, first thing, one of the first things you do or listen to rather, and here I am with good news, good, inspiring, hopeful, optimistic kind of stories and news, and I'm excited to say many of you have started contributing to it, whether it be personal great news like Kimberly Kelly, who I hadn't seen in a few Hangouts, and she has talked to us about her struggle with her weight and her recent surgery, and so I reached out to her, and she's doing good. She said she's lost 40 pounds, and she'll be at a Hangout again soon, so I was very excited to hear that good news from Kimberly. I also got some great quotes submitted to me. Paul Wesley sent one in from Dick Van Dyke, who said, just knowing you don't have the answers is a recipe for humility, openness, acceptance, forgiveness, and an eagerness to learn. And those are all good things. Dick Van Dyke, happy birthday, 99 years young, just a couple of days ago. How about that? And my good friend Mark Lipsky sent this quote in. I think he wrote this and just posted it, but he says, because, it's the very darkest time of the year, approaching the shortest day of the year. He said, you can't make the sun rise earlier than its time, but you can learn to do wonderful things in darkness. Oh, I love you, Mark. You're the best. Very, very positive guy. And I just love having him in my life, as well as Carlo in Canada, who said, I really want to let you know, I absolutely love that Dan Harris singing your troubles away bit. Said he posted it on Facebook, mentioned it to a cashier that he chatted with, and she said that she loves singing and appreciated singing your troubles away info. I played that clip on last, I think, Friday's show, but you can just Google Dan Harris singing your troubles away if you want to see that bit that Carlo loved, I loved, and mostly my good stuff is that I got so many of your submissions. That was really great. Keep those coming. standupwithpete@gmail.com or any other way that you contact me. I'll get it here on the show. If you got some good quote, experience, idea, or news to share, do it. and we'll all celebrate in it and feel better for it, I hope. Also, I just found out that you can record phone calls now with the new iPhone OS. It tells the other person that you're recording so that you can't do it surreptitiously, but you can do that now, which actually is going to create a whole new bunch of opportunities. I'll be able to record interviews on the road, which I'm excited about. So that's good stuff. But I'm really liking this segment and doing the research for it. And I found this great website called Positive News. It's a British site, positive.news. And they had this great list, and I just want to read it. It's what went right this week. The good news that matters. And I love it. And I want to share some of these stories with you because they're great before I get to all of the other impactful, important news, that most of which is bad or worrisome. Let's do some positive news from the past week. All right. First of all, apparently scientists are now touting a possible solution to microplastic pollution, which would be massive. Could a sponge made from cotton and squid bone solve one of humanity's greatest challenges? Squid bone? Scientists in China think so, after the new material was shown to be highly effective at filtering microplastics from water. In a peer-reviewed study published in Science Advances, the sponge was shown to absorb between 98 and 99% of microplastics in water samples taken from China. What's more, researchers from the University of Wuhan, it's from University of Wuhan, well, it can't be legitimate. They're just going to spread more microplastics. Anyway, they led the study. They claim the sponge can be manufactured at scale. Finding a way to filter microplastics from water is a pressing challenge. Microplastics have been found in the remotest corners of the planet and our bodies, including our brains. So this would be a major, major accomplishment. So we'll follow that. How about this one? More positive news. Scientists have created a first-of-its-kind urine test, which they say catches lung cancer early, potentially improving outcomes for the millions of people who will go on to develop the disease. Researchers developed an injectable sensor that interacts with the, quote, zombie cell proteins and releases an easily detectable compound into urine, signaling their presence. So that's a pretty good news story. Here's another one. The United Kingdom is closing in on a green energy milestone. For the first time in history, the UK is on course to get more of its electricity from renewables than fossil fuels over an entire year. How about that? UK closed its last coal-fired power plant back in October, which is a huge milestone. And even Greenpeace's UK policy director says renewables producing more of UK's electricity than fossil fuels for the first time ever is a real landmark moment in Britain's transition to becoming a clean energy superpower. Still a long way to go until we meet the government's 2030 renewable energy target, but we're heading in the right direction. That's great news. China has completed their 1,800-mile green wall. It's taken nearly 50 years to complete, but a mammoth project to encircle China's largest desert with trees is now finished. And the world has barely noticed. Well, here at Stand Up with Pete Dominic, that's not the case. This is where you get the positive news. I love it. How about this one? The U.S. has got a new marine reserve. Imperiled marine life, including leatherback turtles, blue whales, and sea otters, can now find sanctuary in a new marine reserve off the coast of California, covering more than 4,500 square miles. The Chumash, am I saying it right? Heritage National Marine Sanctuary, and the first U.S. marine reserve that indigenous communities have been made co-custodians of. So that is great news, and this is absolutely wonderful. An extinct bird has come back from the dead. What? A crow that went extinct in the wild in 2002 is cawing again in the Hawaiian forests. 5 Olalala, I think it's pronounced, also known as the Hawaiian crow, were released in woodlands and the island of Maui last week as a part of a project to bring the charismatic birds back. Habitat loss, disease, and predation by invasive species drove the crows to extinction. While previous attempts to reintroduce the birds to the island have failed, those projects offer scientists insights that inform the latest program, this time on Maui. So that is great news. And a new study says that regular power walks boost memory. Well, all right, well, I mean, do we need that study? Still, I thought I'd mention it. Those are just a few of the positive news stories from positive.news. Go sign up for their weekly newsletter. I'm a subscriber now, and I'll continue to refer to them as a source for our good stuff. That's what I've got for you on today's good stuff. I think that's more than enough. Hope you're feeling good. If you want to press stop, then maybe you should. You'll have a great, great day. I've got some hard news and some tough clips to play for you, but the hue is a great conversation. So that's probably the best good stuff I could bring you is this conversation with these four ladies coming up. But before I get to those important, serious headlines, let's go to Chris Rock. He was the host of Saturday Night Live this past weekend, and just some comedy, a comedy break to get you warmed up for the headlines?
Everybody's worried. Everybody's worried. I mean, we got Luigi. We got Luigi, you know, and that's good. I really feel sorry for the family. I mean, everybody's fixated on how good looking this guy looks. If he looked like Jonah Hill, no one would care. They'd already given him a chair already. Be dead, okay? But he actually killed a man, a man with a family, a man with kids, man. I mean, I have condolences. I'm going to have real condolences for, you know, the healthcare CEO. I mean, this is a real person, you know? But you also got to go, you know, sometimes drug dealers get shot. I mean, you've seen The Wire, right? It's been a bad year for my people, the blacks. It's not been a good year. Kamala and Diddy and Jake Paul beating Mike Tyson. What the hell? Who is this Jake Paul? This 27-year-old punching a 60-year-old man in the face? Is this what the white man has reduced himself to? Stop it! Well, who's he gonna fight next? Morgan Freeman? I hate Jake Paul. I got landlord hate for him. I hate him like cocaine hates monogamy.
Wow. The always amazing Chris Rock in his monologue on Saturday Night Live this past Saturday. More jokes coming, but let's get to the headlines. Important news across the world, starting internationally. No one does a more robust, comprehensive rundown of the headlines on all of daily news shows than me right here, because I picked the stories that are most impactful for the most people. Let's start in South Korea, where lawmakers there voted to impeach the president, suspending him from office after his declaration of martial law earlier this month set off outrage. In Paris, continues to be tumult, where their president, Emmanuel Macron, on Friday tapped François Bayrou, a veteran centrist politician and one of his top allies, as the new prime minister, a move that few expect will stabilize France's roiling politics. Mr. Bayrou becomes the country's fourth prime minister this year, which is obviously an ominous record. All right, let's go to Syria, where some European politicians are saying that Syrian refugees should return home now that Bashar al-Assad's government has fallen, and some are, and they're elated as residents are trickling home to a shattered town in northern Syria. Lots of really interesting reporting on that. A missing Missouri man who was unexpectedly found in Syria, named Travis Timmerman, was found after he crossed into the country. He was taken after he crossed into the country to make a pilgrimage. Well, he was flown out by the U.S. military to Jordan to U.S. defense officials, and his family said on Friday. Hezbollah said that the rebels cut off its supply routes through Syria as they toppled the government. So that's a problem for Iran, which is the militant group's patron as well. Though bad news, bad situation. Hezbollah, that's for sure. And now let's come home to some good old domestic American news. This was really upsetting to see. A lot of people obviously critical of ABC News because they gave in to pressure from Trump and his lawyers, and they apparently are paying $15 million to settle a defamation lawsuit brought by the former and future disgraced president. Significant concession by a major news organization and a rare victory for Trump in his war on the media. I don't like that one at all. Don't like this either. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was injured and admitted to a hospital in Luxembourg while on a congressional delegation trip to mark the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. Apparently, she had a hip replacement there, and I guess she's going to be okay, but that's pretty awful. Let's go to Georgia, where a judge overseeing the Georgian election interference case against Donald Trump and others on Friday rejected an attempt by former Trump campaign lawyer Kenneth Chesebro to invalidate his guilty plea. So that case continues on. We'll see what happens with it. And this went very undercover, but I thought it was really important. The IRS on Thursday said it had sweated an additional $1.3 billion from wealthy tax cheats thanks to enhanced reviews and audits paid for by the budget climate law President Biden signed 2 years ago. The tax agency said criminal investigations and civil cases have earned an additional $3.4 billion for Uncle Sam for a total increase haul of $4.7 billion. This is amazing news, and it should be seen as encouraging by both parties, but of course, one hates government and taxes and doesn't see the need for them while benefiting from them each and every day. Anyway, President-elect Donald Trump on Friday said he and Republicans are now going to seek permanently eliminate daylight saving time when he takes office. We debated this on CNN on Friday night. I was on Abby Phillips' panel. I mean, I think they should get rid of the Electoral College. Some think you should get rid of daylight saving time. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s lawyer apparently once petitioned the FDA, which he's not going to be in charge of, to revoke its approval of the polio vaccine. Yeah, that's right. The polio vaccine. And guess who had it? Mitch McConnell. Well, he survived polio as a child. He suggested that petition could jeopardize Kennedy's confirmation to be Donald Trump's health secretary. So we'll wait and see on that, as well as Kash Patel, who's Donald Trump's trick and pick for FBI director. He's exaggerated, apparently, his role in the Justice Department's inquiry into the Benghazi attack. There's new reporting on that. Another billionaire is donating $1 million to Trump's inaugural fund. Not just Mark Zuckerberg, but now Sam Altman of OpenAI. Meta and Amazon have done the same. And over the weekend, the disgraced former and future president was at the Army-Navy game, and he had with him Pete Hegseth, as well as J.D. Vance, and the former Marine who was acquitted after choking a homeless man to death in a New York subway car. Daniel Penny was his special guest, which is such an upsetting. It was so upsetting to see that we are celebrating this guy. No matter what you think about it, celebrating him as a hero is such a bad look. It's such a bad feeling to see someone like that be held up. But what do you expect from someone like Trump and his buddies? Let's go to Texas, where their attorney general sued a New York doctor for sending abortion pills to Texas, which is a near total abortion ban. The lawsuit opens a new front in the legal battle over abortion access. That's a case to follow closely. And of course, I mentioned at the top, and you're probably following all these stories of mysterious drones in the night sky. Well, it looks like a lot of them are planes. A lot of them are just planes. I'll play some audio from Mick West coming up debunking it all, at least some of it. The consulting firm McKinsey & Company will pay $650 million to settle a Justice Department investigation into its work with the opioid maker Purdue Pharma. Thought that was an interesting headline worth mentioning. And so is this one. Over 120 House Democrats are calling on President Biden to have the Equal Rights Amendment ratified. The publication of the ERA would probably spark legal challenges, but Democrats say it's important to press for before the second Trump administration. More than 120 House Democrats have signed a letter asking President Joe Biden to urge the nation's archivists to recognize the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment by publishing the amendment first proposed 101 years ago. A move they believe would finally enshrine sex equality into the Constitution. So, well, it'll be an interesting effort to see what happens with that. How about this? A defense fund established by supporters of suspected CEO killer Luigi Mangione has now topped $100,000. Mangione's attorney said he might not accept the money that has been raised, but I think that's a pretty significant number and effort to raise money for this kid's defense, because a lot of them, people still see him somehow as a hero, or certainly worthy of a robust defense for murdering a guy in cold blood. I saw this one of the shared. Older Americans are moving increasingly to where? Myrtle Beach. Faster than anywhere else. Home buyers, especially those 65 and older, can't seem to get enough of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And finally, one more headline I thought was worth mentioning. More Americans rode Amtrak trains than ever before in 2012. As interest in passenger rail has seen resurgence across the United States, Amtrak set its all-time ridership record for fiscal year in December, surpassing 32.8 million passengers, an increase of 15% from 2023. I love it. I think this is great news. They get a 9% increase in their profits year over year, the highest in history. I love to see y'all taking the train, whoever y'all are. Good for you. Maybe we can actually catch up with Japan circa 1981. All right, those are your headlines, and now it's time to get to the sound bites, the clips, the audio that I've gathered for you for today's episode of Stand Up. But before that, real quick, a word from Pete Coe and our friend Ty.
Hey there, Stand Up listeners. Do you sometimes wonder why we don't all live on the same planet? Tired of politics, clownish politicians, and even our own pending doom? Are you looking for a way to support independent media, but not sure how? Well, if you like what you hear on this podcast, then we have the answer. Sign up now to become a Stand Up Patreon member. You get all the benefits of the episodes you love, plus access to our members-only Hangouts, as well as our amazing Patreon listener community. Listeners like Ty in Bowie, Maryland.
I love stand-up. I love the interviews, love the news clips, and I especially love the Hangouts, where I'm able to connect with this amazing community. I've even made friends with Pete, even when he does things I don't agree with, like wearing shorts during the wintertime. You know, stuff like that.
Stuff like that indeed, Ty, and thanks for being a subscriber. Go to patreon.com/Pete Dominic or visit the show's website at standupwithpete.com and click on the big red button that says Support Stand Up.
Yeah, thank you, Pete Co. Thank you, Ty. And I hope to see you both at tonight's Hangout at 8 p.m. East. But now it's time to get to those sound bites I brought for you today. Let's start with this. It's Mick West, who I think is a real smart guy. He's a science writer, an investigator, the creator of websites Contrail Science and Metabunk. This guy is the best. He's been on the show before. He investigates and debunks all this pseudo-scientific bullshit, conspiracy theories like chemtrails and UFOs. He even wrote a book called Escaping the Rabbit Hole, How to Debunk Conspiracy Theories Using Facts, Logic, and Respect. And he's been in all kinds of legitimate media outlets, including CBS, CNN, Popular Mechanics, New York Times, so much more. He's been a speaker at the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. I highly suggest that you follow him and read and watch his YouTube videos. This is the audio from one of his most recent video that he put up yesterday, taking on the whole drone thing. And I'm going to give you all 4 minutes of it. It explains pretty much everything. It's better to see it because he shows you why the images are what they are. But he explains that you can track all this stuff. Every single vessel has a device number, and there's ways to track it. And he is challenging anyone to try to prove him wrong in this video, but really calmly explains it with his sweet British accent. Take it away, calm us down, Mick West.
Drones are real. They fly in the sky, sometimes at night, sometimes they fly over military bases, and sometimes people get arrested for doing that. There are small drones and big drones. But there's no good evidence that any of the recent spate of large drone sightings in New Jersey are actually large drones. With practice, you can identify lots of things in the sky. Sometimes you use the shape of the object or its lighting configuration. Sometimes you use a site like Flight Radar 24 or ADS-B Exchange to see what aircraft are in that location or in that direction. Sometimes you look at what stars and planets are in the sky, and sometimes you look up satellites. Most of these need the date, time, location, and the direction the camera is looking in. Date, time, and location are the most important, and I often refer to these as the details, DTLs. In every single case where we have the details, and in many cases where we do not, we managed to identify what was being looked at. In every case, it wasn't a large drone. This triangle drone was a C-130. This video of 8 circling drones was a bunch of planes circling in a holding pattern. This drone was a helicopter. This video of a mystery drone shot by a professional photographer was probably Venus out of focus. Those reports from pilots to air traffic control over Oregon were Starlink satellites. New Jersey Senator Andy Kim saw a lot of drones, but he was looking at planes, something he later discovered. Former Governor Larry Hogan saw drones, but he was looking at stars and planes. These stationary drones over the Capitol were just normal incoming air traffic far away, so seeming not to move much, but they did move. A reporter claimed to see drones, but he shows video of what were obviously planes. I could go on, but the point is made. Every case where there's enough information, and especially with the details, the date, the time, and the location, what we see are not drones. If that reporter gave the details, we could see what aircraft he was looking at. The government is slow, and the military is both slow and cautious, but they've all started to come around, with the DHS and the FBI saying on December the 12th, "We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or public safety threat or have a foreign nexus. Upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft operating lawfully. There are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace. Is it just mass hysteria, social contagion, a collective delusion? Mostly yes. Remember, there's zero evidence of any large drones in New Jersey, and dozens of confirmed misidentifications. Drones are a real thing, and they represent real security concerns. China is probably using them to spy on us. But what we are seeing here is really just a really large flap, just with drones instead of UFOs. Eventually, as no drones are found, it will fade from the public consciousness, but many die-hard believers, especially in the UFO community, will never let it go. But there's nothing here. There's no good evidence. And if you think you've got it, post your video with the details, post the exact date, time, location, and the direction you're facing, and we'll check to see if it's a plane, a planet, or a satellite. Maybe we'll find a drone. But right now, it seems to be all misidentification. These calls for action, the calls for legislation, the calls to shoot down lights in the sky, which are probably passenger planes, and the wild theories about secret drones hunting nuclear weapons, all that has no basis in reality.
All right. Feel better? That's Mick West. And if that wasn't good enough, here's former Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who is also an Air Force pilot, saying basically the same thing with even more credibility and insight on it. He says they're all planes. Here he is on CNN yesterday.
What do you make of how federal agencies have thus far responded to these sightings so far? Secretary Mayorkas saying, we're looking at them. They pose no national threat at this time. Is enough being said or done to reassure people?
I mean, look, if people don't want to be reassured, then the answer is no. And, look, what I'm hearing from Homeland and what I'm hearing from FBI is we don't see a threat here. And look, honestly, every video I've seen, and I've spent the last couple of days looking at every one of these videos, every video I have seen on Twitter or on the internet are all airplanes. They're literally all airplanes. Some of them will show an airplane that's kind of stable out there and says that's a drone. And actually, it's an airplane flying towards you at 30,000 feet, and I can see the lighting on it. And if there are drones out there, by the way, and if any of these pictures that they have shown are actual drones, these drones then are complying with FAA lighting requirements, a green on the right, a red on the left with a strobe. And so it's not a run. It's not aliens if there are drones. My guess is if there are drones, again, because, again, all I've seen are airplanes, then it is more than likely some company that's out testing drones or something like that and has no requirement to tell the public that they're doing it because they're actually operating these things legally. There have been no accusations of illegal operations. By the way, as a pilot myself, I can fly over a military base whenever I want. Those restrictions don't exist. So I think there's a lot of mass hysteria, and I've heard stories of people pointing lasers at these quote-unquote drones, and then the drones' lights go off. Actually, let's be clear. I've been lased as a pilot before. You're supposed to turn off all your lights once you get lased so that they can't find you because it can actually damage your eyes.
All right, there you go to Adam Kinzinger, shoring up what Mick West already said, and that should put it to bed for us here at Stand Up. What do you think? I mean, it shouldn't. If there is a drone and we know it, then let's talk about it. I'm not going to close the door on that. If you disagree with either of those guys and your name is Matt Elliott in Kentucky, I want to hear from you. standupwithpete@gmail.com. All right, let's get back to Bernie Sanders. Earlier, I was kind of having fun with him at the show opening, but I thought this was a great moment on his appearance on Meet the Press yesterday with Kirsten Welker, warning about the incoming oligarchy, which is what it seems like we're now living in, run by billionaires. Take it away, Senator Sanders. As President Trump comes into office. No, here we go, for real.
As President Trump comes into office, we have got to understand, Kristen, and this is something I feel very strongly about, and it's not talked about enough. We are moving rapidly into an oligarchic form of society. Never before in American history have so few billionaires, so few people had so much wealth and so much power. Never before has there been so much concentration of ownership, sector after sector, power of Wall Street, and never before in American history, and we better talk about this, have the people on top had so much political power. We can't go around the world saying, oh, well, in Russia, Putin has an oligarchy. Well, we got an oligarchy here, too. And in this last election, in both parties, billionaires spent huge amounts of money to elect their candidates. Here in the state of Vermont, we believe we have town meetings, one person, one vote. That's democracy, not billionaires buying elections. Those are the issues we got to focus on. We got to rebuild the middle class.
Sorry, Senator Sanders, don't mean to cut in, but I got to get to Senator Chris Murphy, who is also using the O word. No, not that one. The bad one.
What does this tell you about the government that is emerging in next January? I think we talk a lot about the coming dictatorship, but I think what's really coming is what you would call an oligarchy. That's a term you probably forgot from high school, but what it means is that a handful of really rich people run the government and they steal from ordinary people using their access to government in order to make themselves and their families even richer. That is likely what we are heading for in the United States of America. I don't think it's a coincidence that Trump's cabinet is filled with billionaires. There's more wealth on that cabinet than 169 different nations.
All right, there you go, Senator Sanders and Senator Murphy talking about oligarchy. And now here's me on CNN suggesting that we just eat all the rich people.
You know the phrase, don't bite the hand that feeds you? Well, tech executives are breaking bread with President-elect Trump in what looks like a pretty naked attempt to woo the leader of the free world to be friendly. Tonight, it's Apple CEO Tim Cook making the pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago, and already we've watched millionaire donor donations to Trump's inaugural fund from tech brethren Mark Zuckerberg and also Jeff Bezos and Sam Altman. Joining us at the table is comedian and host of Stand Up with Pete Dominick, the podcast. It's Pete Dominick.
Yay.
So, look, here's my take, okay? These guys are running businesses. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their business. The thing to do in the moment is to do what's right for their business. And if you have to spend $1 million to the Trump inaugural fund, I don't think they have a choice, to be honest.
I think everybody always has a choice. I think that it's disgusting, the wealth concentration in this country. The fact that there are so many billionaires, and that so many of them are working in the administration. I don't know how we can't come together at this table and as a country and eat all of these billionaires. Anywhere else in all of the natural world, if one species had this much of the pie, we would eat them. It's crazy that there's so much money, and even crazier that anybody trusts a billionaire at all, but it's to be expected with...
They've been rich, though, for a long time. And it's not...
All right, well, then they went on to another panelist. I didn't really get to finish my rant there, but that's the best I could do for you on CNN on Friday night. But it was fun, always a fun time going there. But that is, I think, what we're expecting, and we need to just keep talking about it. It's a class war. There's just really no way around it. It has been forever. It's just more overt than ever before. Here is Senator-elect Jim Banks. He is a real crazy crank, right-wing conspiracy theorist, white supremacist, not a good guy, real bad, but he loves himself some RFK Jr. apparently, and submitted that this country was ready for a big debate on vaccines. Here he is with Manu Raju on CNN yesterday.
RFK is obviously a unique and diverse choice, a lifelong Democrat, one of the major figures in the Kennedy family. Obviously, he has a lot of views that Donald Trump appreciates and supports. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is the president in the White House, and RFK is going to work for him. And whether it's putting American agriculture first or putting our kids first, this country is ready for a big debate about vaccines and a lot of these issues related to making America healthy again. I support RFK 110% to be the new secretary because I think he brings a lot to the job that's unique. He's going to shake up these departments. But Donald Trump's in charge. He's going to be he's the guy in the White House that's going to be in charge, and RFK is going to report to him. So I have a lot of confidence and comfort in him being the new secretary because I know who's in charge at the end of the day.
Yeah, Donald Trump's in charge. You got a lot of confidence and comfort because Donald Trump and RFK Jr. and Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel are running the United States government, the most powerful government in the world. It's a lot of confidence and comfort. I like some of that confidence and comfort, Jim Banks. I don't think I'm going to get any. All right. Well, I loved this conversation on Saturday's episode of Velshi with Nicole Hannah-Jones. She, of course, is the writer of the 1619 Project. She's an academic, journalist, and they were talking about how to cover Trump. But I thought this last few minutes of their conversation was really wonderful. And I also thought it reminded me of Vikki's first answer in our conversation coming up just a moment here on The Hugh. But Charles Coleman Jr. was in for Velshi on Saturday. Here he is with Nikole Hannah-Jones.
Threading that needle between engagement and exhaustion is something that I have conversations with people about all the time. I want to talk to you about the notion of the intersection of where you sit and others like you in particular, being someone in media and journalism, but also being a Black woman, and how that uniquely shapes your lens going into the next 4 years as any one of those groups faces a special and unique set of attacks, but then to have the culmination of what that represents in one person, in one human body, how does that change how you navigate the space of doing what you're supposed to do as a storyteller?
Well, we can look at the way that Trump used his most vile rhetoric and attacks against Black women journalists, right? Against Yamiche Alcindor, against April Ryan. We saw this again and again. So we can expect more of that. And there's a reason for that, right? That Black women hold a very particular position in this society. Black women also were those who voted against Trump at the highest rates of all racial groups. And so when Black women seek to hold that power accountable, that's seen as more dangerous, and that Black women are less protected in this society. So I know that as a Black woman journalist, you know, my former Twitter handle, I'm no longer using X as a platform anymore, was Ida Bae Wells. And that was me always trying to center myself in a tradition of the Black press, a tradition of Black women who were determined to tell the truth, even if it cost them. We know that when Ida B. Wells spoke the truth about white people lynching Black men, that her newspaper was burned down, that she was forced out of her community, that she became a refugee away from Memphis. And so we understand as Black women what is required of us to be journalists and to tell the truth. But that also means that because of that history, we stand on strong shoulders, and we are going to continue to do what we've always done, which is hold power accountable in this country.
And your last statement made me think about something that I hadn't planned to ask, but I will now. Given how the results in November played out with respect to exit polling and everything that we saw, has the coalition or any notion of a coalition between Black women journalists in the space been tampered with, broken down, or has that had no impact on how you all are approaching moving forward and working with other groups?
I definitely am hearing from a lot of Black women that they feel betrayed, that they feel alone in the struggle. And that's not including Black men, but that's including others who are not Black, right? And that there is a sense of exhaustion, of wanting to step back. But then very quickly, there's the reality that we don't have a choice, that we can't step back. So I know a lot of Black women who are taking these last few weeks of the year before the new administration comes in to really fortify themselves, to try to replenish those reserves. And then the Black women I know fully intend to fight for our communities, to fight to protect the most vulnerable, and to hope to rebuild those coalitions, because the thing about being Black in America, we're 13% of the population. We have to build coalition. There's no way for us to safeguard our communities, to push forward an agenda that we consider to be humanistic without building coalition. So, you know, Black women are human beings. We have a right to be tired. We have a right to be upset. But then Black women are going to go out and do what Black women have always done, which is try to save this country from itself.
If that ain't Black brilliance, I don't know what is. I have been waiting for this conversation today for a very long time, and it did not disappoint. Thank you so much, Nikole Hannah-Jones, for being with us.
All right. I love that. Wasn't that great? I thought that was really good, and I want to share that one with you as well. All right. That is your news and clip roundup. Oh, wait. We just got to end on a laugh, right? Yeah. Saturday Night Live weekend update. Colin Jost and Michael Che. Take it away, boys.
This week, America continued the delicate, sensitive debate over who will play this guy in the Netflix miniseries.
Picture of Louis Mangione.
After police arrested suspected CEO shooter Luigi Mangione, they found a note on him expressing anger at corporate America. Yet, he went to Starbucks before the shooting and then was caught at McDonald's. So perhaps his greatest crime was hypocrisy. The McDonald's where the shooter got caught has been getting 1-star Yelp reviews to punish them for snitching. First of all, who looks at Yelp reviews of McDonald's? The only Yelp review of McDonald's should be, was open 5 stars. Everyone who went to high school with the alleged shooter said they were shocked that he could become an assassin, whereas everyone I went to high school with was shocked I didn't.
There's a picture of him, high school picture of Colin Jost.
Tensions over mysterious drones flying above New Jersey continued to rise after a drone crashed into a person's backyard. But at least now we know whoever's flying them is a friggin' woman.
Donald Trump has been named Time's Person of the Year because no person on earth has taken up more of our goddamn time.
Well done.
Amazon is planning to donate $1 million to Donald Trump's inauguration. It makes sense because Amazon and Trump both want to ship stuff out as fast as possible. It's the 90s, guys.
Trump also said Friday that he would try to permanently end daylight savings time by challenging the sun to a staring contest.
It was announced that Matt Gaetz will host a new talk show on one American news network called The Matt Gaetz Show. He'll be covering everything from quinceañeras to prom night jitters. That's like 4 groaners in a row, man.
A lawyer working with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has petitioned the government to revoke its approval of the polio vaccine, because it ain't Christmas without some Tiny Tims.
Elon Musk gave over $20 million to the mysterious RBG PAC, which claimed that Trump and Ruth Bader Ginsburg agreed on the issue of abortion. Wow, I never even knew Trump got her pregnant.
Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson made her Broadway debut in a one-night performance in *And Juliet*, while Clarence Thomas blew everyone off the stage in kinky boots.
Senator Mitch McConnell seen here watching a gust of wind blow away a homeless man's lottery ticket. He suffered minor injuries after he fell during a Republican lunch, but thankfully he landed on his hard-shell back.
All right, there you go. That is it. That's the whole show. Opening your good stuff, your news headlines, your clips, and now it's time to get to the ladies of The Hue. I was so excited to sit down with them for the 7th installment of our series. You can listen to all of the previous episodes of The Hue. They're all linked to this episode. You can find them there, and I'm so excited to have them. They named themselves The Hue because they're 4 amazing, brilliant, thoughtful, hilarious, kind, curious black women, and they are all different shades, not only of skin color, but of all things. The Hue was the perfect name. I think Francis came up with it. But they're not monolithic, as folks always generalize about different ethnicities and genders and everything, right? And they prove that every time we talk to them, because we talked about a wide range of issues, starting with the results of the presidential election, and we even got to Christmas treats. We had a lot of fun, learned a lot, had a lot of laughs. I always enjoy this. It's a real privilege and an honor to be in conversation with them, to be able to platform them. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the ladies of The Hue. Karen, Kimberly, Vikki, and Francis. Let's do it. And the ladies have assembled. The Hue has assembled. Very excited to have you all back, that we could schedule this. Welcome back, ladies. Thank you very much. Audience applause. There it is. Yay, yay. Let's get right to it. We've got lots that we want to talk to and get your reactions to. But of course, I know you don't necessarily want to talk about this a lot, but I do want to know your reactions to the outcome of the election. What were your thoughts in the day after, the night after, the days after, up to now? How are you doing? How are you thinking about it? Vikki, I'm going to let you get us started. What did you think? What did you expect? And how did you react to the election?
I was hoping that, and thank you, Pete, for having us.
Of course.
I was hoping that history wasn't going to repeat itself, that the examples of presidents who stepped down that whoever steps in their stead has never won. I was hoping that it wasn't going to be that. It was disappointing. And then I got angry. And I'm still holding on to a little bit of that anger to spur me into action and to keep my eye on the ball and figure out what we can do in the interim, since it's going to be mostly states' right from here on out.
Right.
And figuring out what we can do to make things better and just stay in the fight.
Kimberly, what did you think? You didn't really want to even discuss this when I talked to you the other day. You were like, I don't want to even think about this or talk about this. So maybe that's your answer. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the reason why, and good evening, afternoon, and good day to all, I would say that, sorry, it's not that I don't want to discuss it. It's just that I feel like everyone, when this happened immediately, it was like an inundation of white women reaching out and like, we need to talk about this. Like, how are you doing? We need to have a conversation. I'm so sorry. I don't understand. And it's like, it was weird.
Yeah,
and it's
I did that.
And I guess I just felt weird because at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, like, where have you been your entire life in this country? I mean, like, I'm not surprised when the way our world is shaped today. We recognize that we live in a country in particular that is short attention span. You say squirrel and they move on to the next real quickly.
Yeah.
And so when TikTok is like where people about to burn down houses because TikTok might be banned, I'm not surprised about the election.
So I haven't really been following people's reactions to that, but it's a pretty interesting story if it in fact happens. So, Francis, what Kimberly said was, I was that guy. I reached out literally to you and Karen, who are here. And one day I called, I think you both. And with that exact reaction that Kimberly was basically criticizing that white women reached out to her was, like, are you okay? What are we going to do? And I think the thought behind it, to some extent, I don't know if that was exactly my sentiment. I was more really trying to pick your brain on what I should do on the show and how I should handle it, and what you'd want me to talk about and how. But there was this and is this idea that you're probably going to be in worse situation than someone like me is, even if it's just, as Vikki said, focus on the state. So what do you make of people reaching out to you like that? And what do you make of the election itself?
Yeah, I think a big thing for me was the endorphins. So as we were riding high heading into the election, everybody was hyped. The people that you talk to that also had the same mindset would just add to everything and just get you so invigorated and ready to go into this fight. Election turns out the way it does. Now it's time for withdrawal. Now it's time for that big come down. So the next day, as far as people reaching out, the big thing was going to work. That's the first reach out. So how is this going to play out? Are people going to speak to me about it? I don't want to hear not near nothing about the other side. I just want either not to have to speak about it at all, or people that
what happened? You go into an office setting with people that know you and know your politics or make assumptions about you. What happened that day?
I am blessed to be in HR and with, I guess, people that are in New Jersey, so they have a certain mindset. So the best thing was like, y'all don't have to turn on your cameras today. I know that this was very volatile, like all of the stuff that was happening. So just, if you don't even need to go to meetings, you don't have to.
You were remote, but you were working remote that day, but you could still feel there's still the same kind of talk or small talk about other issues outside of work, even on those meetings. Karen, I talked to you and you're like, I'm just watching detective shows. I'm not even thinking about politics, at least that day. How have you been dealing and thinking about the election, if you have been dealing and thinking about it at all?
I think I've been compartmentalizing, and I've really stayed away from most of the consumption of politics and news than I usually do. It really reminded me of back when George Floyd got murdered, and like everyone wanted to know what I was thinking and how to help them and everything. And you all know I was in the throes of that fight at my former organization. So much so that, I mean, I really feel like I ruffled some feathers.
Right.
And I paid for that. And so I was like, I'm out for now. I'm out. I can't think about it. And I was disappointed. I mean, because there was a lot of like positive news, and I'm not surprised, but I was really just hoping that for once people would come through for people other than themselves. Because you could get positives for both yourself and other people with your vote. I mean, when they really explain some of the things, like how the tariffs are going to affect somebody that makes $60,000 for a family of 4, and the difference, like, how could you ignore that?
If those people even heard that, I feel
Correct.
like, who knows?
Correct.
Yeah.
But I just felt like there was so much information out there, and I know people can shelter themselves within their bubble, but I was hurt because if you're telling me that you didn't vote for Kamala, somebody did. In the circle that I have of mixed race, I'm not isolated in that sense. I have family members of different races. Stats say some of y'all voted for him.
Right. And then you got to play. I mean, sometimes you're playing a guessing game. Sometimes you're not.
Yeah. And even if you're not, you're like somebody,
That's
even
not
just
fun.
one step away from you, doesn't think of me as a person.
Yeah.
And that was hurtful.
It's one of the only times I've ever felt racially profiled after the election, the first one and this one. I'm like, they think I'm a J6er. I haven't suffered from it, but it is a weird thing. Have any of you had any conversations, any issues, any problems with anybody at Thanksgiving? Anybody gloating? Felt anybody try to marginalize or minimize you, your feelings, your experiences? Anything happen at all since that you can speak to?
So when I was with the family in Mississippi, and there's some big Trump supporters that came to dinner, and he was like, "Hey, Vic, let's have a conversation." And I went just like this.
You gave him a heart. You formed your hands into a heart to him.
Yes.
That is a great move.
It's going to be love today.
Yeah, that's a good move. Ooh, that's good. People should steal that. I can't see a grown man doing that to somebody else, but I'm going to give it a shot. Kimberly?
Oh, something I was going to say, actually, it's interesting. I didn't think about I know I'm going to be fine. I where I live as a state, we're going to have the ripple effects around us as part of the Midwest. But I went to my boss and I asked a white male, was he okay? Because he has a trans son. And he was very concerned, and his wife was very concerned about the election, more so than I was about the election for myself, because we as a people understand what to expect and never to expect a lot when we deal with systematic fear of and racism. But he's concerned, right? And his child is of age, but still very young, and luckily lives in a safe state for now. But they have family that still grapples with that.
Yeah, that campaign did not do anything for the trans community, but make them terrified, and anybody who cares about them terrified, because they were so specifically targeted and dehumanized, just constantly dehumanized and dead-named and denied that they even exist. So that's thoughtful of you. Sorry, you were...
No, and I appreciate that. And I just want to add to that. The following week, right before Thanksgiving, I was at a conference, Facing Race, and I was sitting at a table trying to do some work, and that's when the bill that was related to the nonprofit status of certain organizations that went through this House and was coming back up, and I happened to sit next to an individual who presented as trans and then identified themselves as trans, and listening to the fear in that conversation amongst and listening to, I'm going to be honest, that is not an experience that I'm around, that I had to have close personal to. So I don't know that lived experience personally. I can only look at it from a lens of observation of others. But watching the fear in that person's face, talking about this, and looking around me and seeing a melting pot of diversity, white, black, indigenous, and we're all talking about how do we protect. And I think that's where I appreciated being in that space, because that really, to me, reset my mindset. Because I was thinking about, like, I'm thinking more about a loss, as they won, we lost. And I left there thinking about, how do you fight? A fight that's set up for you never to win.
Yeah, that's very thoughtful. The whole thing is thoughtful. You are all thoughtful people thinking about somebody else and their vulnerability. But before I finish that part of the question, anybody else, like, is there something that you're specifically most concerned about systemically, or in your area, or in your industry, or anything else, or just as a black woman? Karen?
I mean, just general safety, right? I have felt unsafer, or less safe. How's my English? Less safe out in the world since this man came on the political scene.
Right.
People feel very emboldened to say whatever they want. I'm too old to fight, but I mean, I promise you I will if I have to. But I just and let's be honest, how much do you think I fight? I don't. But it just feels like I have to be a little bit more stiff and head on a swivel than I ever had to before. Also, based upon my industry, pharmaceuticals, who knows what he's going to do? Who knows? Like, he has some plans and they all suck. But is it really going to help me, as I'm not the head of the company that's going to make money from these tax breaks. I'm a regular girl. I'm out here working, just trying to make it. It could really just switch like this and I'm screwed. I don't know what's going to happen.
Francis, Karen talks about the kind of static aversion that has been there since he came on the scene. It's always there. It doesn't sound like progress. Overall, I guess we've made progress, right, on these issues. But it seems like in these past few years, we're regressing. There's white lash, black folks and women, I think you could say. There's a reaction to women's empowerment movement, the black rights movement, part of civil rights. What are you worried or scared of, if at all? Because you were shaking your head a bit there.
There's a lot. I mean, to piggyback on what Karen was saying, the big thing is really that fear. And knowing that when he was in office, there was a lot more terrorist acts that were going on.
Yeah.
This idea of people that are in to drag shows and going to a drag show, if they have all of the protection from the government down to the actual people policing the streets, if something were to happen, who's going to stop it? So that was huge. But going along with the idea of pharmaceuticals, I was at trivia last week and I was speaking to a gentleman who is doing research I think they're actually trying to release a generic version of birth control, long-term birth control, which is fantastic because that would give people the opportunity to buy it much cheaper, to get access to it. And he's about to retire and he's like, but I'm staying on to see this be released.
Oh, wow.
And it's supposed to happen within the next year or so. And I was like, dude, how you feeling about this? And he's like, I mean, not real talk, because that's not, I mean, he's an older white guy. He didn't say real talk, but he pretty much said, it's not gonna, I'm worried. I'm very worried because clearly they do not want something like this to be released. But I'm going to keep doing my job because, in short, it's the right thing to do. It's really big. This is something that's going to help a lot of people. So it's all over the place.
Karen.
I'm sorry, this may sound silly, but I have a thing with teeth. Like, if fluoride is taken out of the water and I lose teeth, like, honestly,
but you don't have to. That's not for you. Like, you won't. That wouldn't affect you. As long as you brush your teeth and take care of your teeth,
I know, but it's just one more thing, and I have a fear of losing a front tooth, and it's
I
irrational.
do too.
Just like
not
I'm
irrational.
No, that's
It's
a thing.
not rational.
That's a very common thing. You have dreams about it and everything. It means something. If you I lose teeth in my dreams a lot. Freaky, weird. Yeah, that's a common thing. It means something. It means.
Do you grind your teeth?
I do.
Oh,
I clench.
all of you do.
Yeah,
I clench during the day, but I don't know that I do it during the.
You probably do.
I have a mouth guard.
Yeah.
I clench and grind, and I have a mouth guard, but.
By the way, Vicki's new. Did you guys know? I should have mentioned it. Your new album, Clench and Grind, I think, is supposed to be dropping soon. Is that still on, or?
It is. We're
Okay.
doing the final touches, and got a little more grind to do. So, and a little more clenching.
All right, now's the time after we talk about the politics of it all, a little bit of fun, and then we can go back to something more serious. But given the nature of all the different elements of, obviously, the outcome of the election and the candidates and the conversation that we're having and me being here, let's talk about let's do a bit. The white person or white man that you trust that you've never, ever met and probably never will. So you don't really trust anybody, probably, certainly not this white guy, but you feel like, yeah, this guy, he's got to be a good one. He's got to be one of the good ones. You're Mr. Rogers or anything like that. So who wants to start with a white guy you actually can trust, you think, maybe seems trustworthy, at least his public persona? Who's going to start us off? There is not any submissions, folks. I've just looked into all of the women's eyes, and they have rolled them. They said we have nothing. I'm sorry. Francis did say the crocodile guy from Australia, but he's dead, so he doesn't count. No, I just made that up. Didn't you seem like he seemed trustworthy? No, not him either. What was
I
his
don't
name?
trust that man that's hanging out with snakes. Why would I trust somebody that wants to roll around with the most venomous objects in the world?
He seemed spiritual.
That is totally
I don't know.
against my black card. No, sir.
Fair enough. I picked the wrong guy. Vicki's still thinking about it. How about Paul Rudd? Could we maybe? He seems.
Paul Rudd is ageless, so I'm weary of him.
I knew one of his, and I
He
met one
looks
of his
the
college
same
roommates.
for the last 25 years.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, you don't trust that.
Yeah, there's some vampire stuff.
Tom
going on.
Hanks.
Tom Hanks is a perfect submission for this bit. Yes, he's got to be a good guy. He treats everybody really well. No, we're not gonna demonize anything. But his son Chet, maybe. I'm a little worried.
That's a whole nother story.
He's the worst.
Tom Hanks, look at him. Like, even all the characters he's played, like, it's a gamut. He's shown us a lot of different sides of him. And I know that I don't know him. However,
was he ever married to interracially in a movie, though?
Oh, is that a test?
Absolutely not.
So that
he
doesn't.
was not.
I'm not sure
It matters.
What's the most
That
famous?
matters.
What's the most famous interracial marriage played out on TV or in movies? I go with, I don't know if it's most famous, but the one that comes to mind, which is why I don't think this is a great test, is Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard. And they apparently had a great relationship, and he still talks about her, and he's very sad when she passed away and so on. But I don't know that makes him. I think he liked Whitney Houston.
They
I don't
broke
know.
up.
I don't know.
I didn't feel the passion when she ran off the plane to kiss him.
No, but
it wasn't.
The criteria here was, did he ever even play in an interracial? And I can't even think of somebody else. But that's an interesting piece of criteria. Was that person in a role, cast in a role in a film or TV show where they were in an interracial marriage? I can name a lot of commercial actors. There seems like a lot of commercial actors selling detergent, and there's a lot of interracial.
They are. But you know what? Those are.
I don't like those. Offend me.
But they're more black men with white women.
Is that right?
Right?
Yeah, I think probably. It offends me
a lot.
I don't mind the interracial relationship.
We see more on TV and such that it's a black man with a white woman, but I feel like I see it more on TikTok.
One thing I don't
that it's a black woman and a white man.
Black wife
That's
effect. That's a thing.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we
That is a thing.
Might need to. What does that mean? What is it? What is the effect?
They get some swag when they start dating.
Swag. You get a beard that looks really well groomed. Your clothes are
Step up.
Bravissima.
You change a lot as a man dating a black woman. She changes you. Like, you start washing your lower legs. Kimberly.
Yes, you learn different hygiene.
Yeah.
I'm trying to follow the rules. I'm raising my hand.
Okay, go ahead.
2 things. Yes, and you saw that with the guy that is dating Taylor Swift. He looks like a total white dude now. But when he first got with her, he looked Travis, I believe his name is.
Travis Kelce.
His
first girlfriend was black.
His previous girlfriend was black. And you could tell because his hair was shaved and he looked groomed. Now he looked like a white dude in Tennessee.
Porn stash.
Yeah, it's weird. He's grown out that's a thing lately. I don't know why that became a thing, but I was thinking of I've had 3 movies to answer your question.
Well, we only have time for one.
Okay, I'm going to give you 3 movies. So we have Jungle Fever.
Oh.
Something New. And last year, one of my favorite, You People.
Oh, You People with, yes. No, we didn't like that, Frances says. She did not like that. Why did you not like that film?
Not at all.
That was a very recent, popular, interracial, overtly, it was about race. He's Jewish, Jonah Hill. And she's, I don't know that actress's name. She was beautiful. I can remember that. Yeah. Remember her face.
Lauren London.
Lauren
it was so
London.
much struggle.
And what was wrong with that, Frances? You didn't like that?
The struggle, and Eddie Murphy's character was incredibly harsh and racist towards. It was a hard watch.
Okay.
And it didn't make you feel endeared, and then they end up breaking up, spoiler alert, but I didn't spoil the end.
But their kiss, they didn't even kiss in real life. It was a CGI kiss.
What do you mean there's a CGI kiss?
That's just a little bit of post-film gossip.
It wasn't their lip.
Are you serious?
Why would that?
Oh my goodness. Would you get that off of TikTok?
It's true.
No, it's true.
It was a CGI kiss.
Yeah, it is. I heard that as
Who
well.
told you that?
Who would search it?
And Frances is a movie buff, and she's backing me up.
Yep.
Well,
it's 100% a fact.
So you can't convince me in a movie if you're not. There's got to be some chemistry.
So then okay. Can I throw off an oldie? So I said.
No, good 3 movies though.
Jungle Fever. No, here's another one. Now here's another one I think you really will like. Made in America. Whoopi Goldberg and Ted Danson.
That's my jam, though.
Oh,
okay,
really?
but they were a couple at that time.
I know that's and they were interracial. He said interracial couple.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie came out in 1993, and they ended up dating in real life, and they had that infamous blackface photo, I believe, when he was dating her.
How long did they date?
Yeah, not a good look.
Yeah. Wasn't it like a correspondence dinner or something when he showed up in blackface? Something like that. It was something on a big stage.
Yeah. It was something where people saw him, so not great. So it's an interesting subject. You know, when we are going to meet the Hugh, I throw out a few ideas. We talk a little bit, but you never know what's going to come up. But this is a fascinating one because we're basically talking about 2 things: interracial relationships in real life and what they do in the case of when it's the white man, which it seems like, and then where it's been depicted in film and why it's like wrong or forced or whatever. But the fact that you can name so many of them is interesting to me too. I could only think of the one off the top of my head, but it's still fascinating to think about what it's like to date someone outside of your race, culture, color, whether you're white, black, Asian, whatever. I haven't really talked about that. I guess it's an individual experience, but society and culture determine a lot about it. And do these films ever get it right?
Real quick question. Did Sidney Poitier ever have a black wife in his movies?
That's a whole different curveball. Sidney Poitier, one of the most famous black female actors.
Every movie I can think of.
He was the first kiss on.
Had a white female.
Call Me Mr. Tibbs. He had a black wife.
Oh, there you
go. Saw her?
Yeah. No.
You just want to keep moving then?
I think he had a.
I just feel like
wasn't
me personally. My socialization doesn't include a lot of age appropriate or even white men in general. I work with men, but I don't see them out in my social life. Now, if I lived at home, that's a whole different story because just the disparity in numbers.
I wasn't planning to get into this, but now I really want to ask questions because I've got the four of you here. By the way, Sidney Poitier made history in 1967 when he and Catherine Houghton shared the first on-screen interracial kiss in what film?
Guess who's coming to dinner?
What do we have for her, Karen? Well done, Vikki. Look at what we've got.
You know what? This is one of those rubbing stones that you can calm yourself
A rubbing stone. You can calm yourself when you're worked up.
Yes. And it's very portable. See, it's very small.
You bring it around. It moves.
Very demure.
Well, so
mindful.
Let's get into it. If you don't mind, we can edit this out if it's uncomfortable or whatever. But of the four of you, what has been your experience in interracial relationships and dating white men? I'm pretty sure Francis is dating a white guy, or has at least. I know of once. I don't know the rest of the three of your dating history. Kimberly's face is it looks like she has never and would never, but I don't want to make any assumptions. Go ahead, Kimberly.
So no.
You've never dated a white man. Has there been an opportunity? Have you thought of it?
People assumed that I was dating a person that was white because we had a really good platonic friendship. But I have no interest, and I think a lot of that is socialization growing up around white individuals, males in particular, just not interested.
You are not interested in white. There's nothing a white could do to bring you over to the. You don't think of an ideal white. Draw them up. Anything you want.
Even though one of my exes would claim that eventually I was going to end up with a white male.
He was just doing that to probably be.
But I will be very clear. Hasn't happened yet.
You were really into golf, to be fair, during that phase. Francis, what do you want to say?
I don't know what I have to say. I feel like I've talked about it before on here.
You have.
I don't know.
No? I thought it was more because of who I was raised around. I was raised in a white school and everything. I've just always been around white people, so here we are.
Yeah,
dating white guys all the time.
You're dating white guys.
Crazy.
You've dated more than one white guy.
Oh,
that's like the total opposite.
And I had a half white guy first.
Oh, wow.
And then it just.
How was he?
Yeah. Well, that's
He's an ex.
All right.
Yeah, he's the DC dude too. Oh my gosh, that was a whole bag of something. My dad calls him Joe Neckbone, if that means anything.
Joe Neckbone, he is still referred to. You know what? Maybe I'll edit that. I don't want to know if he's listening. I might want to edit that out.
He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know.
I know. That'd be amazing. Let's go to, of course, Vikki and Karen on the same question. What are your thoughts on interracial marriage? Have you ever? Would you ever? What's the deal?
I've swirled a couple of times.
Wow. I'm not even sure what that means exactly.
You know what it means.
The status.
You've been to the ice cream parlor and you'd had that. You get chocolate or vanilla, or you'd go in the middle and get the swirl.
Okay. All right. Karen, what are your thoughts on El Blanco?
Do you recall where Karen Madison grew up?
Right. That's. I mean, I don't want to make any assumptions.
So while you're in there, especially when I was still in high school, in all actuality, we were really all somehow distantly related. It was a small town, and we were generations upon generations, all in the same school system, all hanging out. And then I went to a college that was less diverse than my high school. I mean, counting the number of Black people in my college class, I didn't need more than this hand.
Right.
So, I mean, it was just where I was.
Which side of the hand did you hold up? Okay.
And then when I graduated and moved to DC, I might have lost my mind. Whoa!
Wait, what happened there?
I was in DC. The exposure, I was in closer proximity. My social circles
to Black folks
were blacker than they have been.
Right.
And that's who I was exposed to coming of age.
Do you all have, as Black Americans, do you have a similar, do you think have a similar reference to different cities? Like if I said something about Atlanta or DC or New York, Chicago or LA, would you all have a general, do you think your reference would be similar to it? Because there's a scene, just like being Jewish. There's a Jewish community in Carmel, Indiana. You know where your people are and you know what kind of your people they are. They're this type of Black folks. They're this type of Jewish folks. They're this type of Latino folks. When you say DC, you almost were making the assumption that everybody listening knew exactly what you meant. I did because I've spent time there. And there's
in my perspective, yeah. For a long time, it was called Chocolate City.
Right.
It was called Chocolate City, and it's also the Green Book. Like, those are things that indelibly are ingrained in our culture. They know where the safe places for you to go as Black individuals. And I think that continues to permeate even today.
Probably even more overtly given the election and the way that states are colored, redder and red and redder or something in a way.
Here's the thing, but that doesn't I look at this, the red states have a pretty high population of Black folks living there.
Fair enough.
Just the fact that it's more social media. It's more just everyone is closer than we have been ever, because you have that connectivity with with telecommunicating on your phone and TikTok and other things that you can see YouTube videos of tour this part of this neighborhood and get a sense of where you're going. You didn't have that for quite some time. It was mostly word of mouth or the Green Book.
That's really interesting. That's very interesting that you all would have a similar frame of reference for those two reasons and a lot more. Where you're most comfortable. I was actually thinking of passing through, much less living in, because you could live in a very Black community in Mississippi, but you got to pass through a white community to get there. And do you want to break down, even in 2024, on the side of the road in that community as a woman, much less as a person of color? And so let's play this. What is the best Black city? Is there a way to say it? What do you like the best? What do you like the best Black city? Go ahead, Vikki.
It's the A.
Atlanta.
It's Atlanta. Everybody knows that.
Everybody, is there any?
Atlanta is the Mecca.
Kimberly, do you want to be contrarian on that?
Here's the thing. I love Chicago. I don't think it's hard for me to even try to sit here and pretend like I care about Atlanta, but I love Chicago.
Wow.
But I do respect that Atlanta is a place to visit for the weekend.
You will go there for the weekend. Okay. Wow. You've really offended the other three, I can tell. Frances, do you have an affinity towards Atlanta or anywhere else as a Black woman?
I'm going to throw a bomb in and root for Philadelphia.
Oh, that's not really a bomb, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's very segregated, but also very well known as a Black city, I feel like.
Yeah, and we're mean. And everybody's terrible. It's great.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But it's number one.
I had a good night in Philly last weekend.
Yeah. When it shows you its good side, it's great. But that underbelly, which is
real.
But let's admit, all the cities have one.
Yeah.
There's just the city for hanging out. There's where can you live. There's the underbelly. Those are facets to every single city.
And
I would say for these cities that we're referencing right now, we're in the social aspect, in the professional aspect, it's booming, and you can see successful Black people.
It's come here and live here and work here. So let me just real quickly ask about Atlanta, because that does seem like an obvious one. Even I know that and thought you would say that. But why? What is it about Atlanta's history that everybody knows, or present? I think one point that you mentioned, even back in the 90s, I remember hearing a lot of Black guys talking about going there either on vacation, or then one of my roommates from college moved there and still lives there. So a lot of people migrate and move to Atlanta. And why?
It's even though we're in a red state, we were purple, but even though we're in a red state, it's pretty progressive. The Atlanta area, there's a lot of upward mobility in Atlanta and the suburbs around it. I don't live in Atlanta proper. I live in Stone Mountain, which it's not. When they were talking about how bad neighborhoods were and how 45 was talking about how just look at your neighborhoods. My neighborhood is fantastic. It's mostly folks that are around my age. There's a few younger people, but it was affordable. This area is affordable. It's nice.
Ethnically?
It's good schools. Pardon?
Is the street, the community, is it ethnically diverse or is it black?
Oh, yeah.
It's that you live in an ethnically diverse community in Stone Mountain. But by the way, in the mountain, engraved in the mountain, there's, I think, 4 Confederate generals on horses, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. And I still am conflicted about going up there. It's a beautiful park.
It is. I've been there.
It really is. It's just something about going up there. I just can't do that. But also, Atlanta has access to everywhere. You're just a few hours from New York. You're not that many hours from LA. You can go internationally. We have the world's busiest airport at Jackson Hartsfield. So Atlanta's got a lot to offer.
There you go. There you go, buddy. Go to Atlanta. And
Congratulations.
Let's not forget DC, though.
I love DC. I love DC.
Yeah, like, so I feel like, okay, for me, I moved down here. It was absolute culture shock because I had been one of none forever. I came here and I saw people that looked like me. I started to have black doctors. The postman was black. People are serving me at restaurants, bartenders. All that stuff was important because I had not ever seen that en masse. It was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing because you saw people that were like you, like, hey, I'm going to work, honest day's work. We can go out and have a good time because we are upwardly mobile. I live in, I might not be the number 1 richest county in Maryland. It might have fallen behind one other one, but this has been, Prince George's County has been one of the most prosperous counties for Black people. And the proximity to DC, like I live 12 miles. So without traffic, I'm in the city limits in less than 15 minutes. And it has grown with me. I moved here when I was 22. So when I was out in my heyday, going out every night, it worked. When I started to slow down a little bit, I still had a lot to go, places to go. Now to satisfy my old lady taste, I got a good day party. I've got a good happy hour opportunity, good dinners. Like, it grows with you. And it just is like been the land of opportunity for me. And I promise you, most of the people I've met have been transplants because we all came here.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about DC. But look at that. Look at votes. We got votes for Chicago, DC, Atlanta, of course, and Philadelphia, which we weren't expecting to. And then there's a side. There's that noise that everybody heard it, and we don't know how to unpack it or what it's about. You never do.
Chicago isn't Chicago. Chicago is neighborhoods. And I think that's a little bit different than Atlanta. Because I don't look at Chicago as a whole. There's parts of Chicago I never ventured to until I was much older because I never had to go that far north or that west. We understand. So you have the north and west sides. But I'm just going to say this real quickly. I was a kid that grew up in a very diverse neighborhood that I thought was diverse, which was diverse because it was a proximity to University of Chicago. I thought that was Chicago. And then as you start leaving that neighborhood and going around you, all you saw were Black faces. I went to my swim class was only Black students in that swim class. There was never a white kid to be seen. My grade school were all Black kids. I had white teachers, but it was all Black students. And then my parents plucked me out and took us to the south suburbs where it was all white. And all of a sudden it was like a culture shock. So I lived in these two worlds of my socialization was in Black communities, but my day-to-day life and schooling was in a white community.
That's interesting. I had the opposite experience. It wasn't overtly, and I was a white guy, and it was still white dominant, but the city of Syracuse, where I went my elementary, how do I say that word? From K to second grade, there was a lot of diversity and a lot of Black folks, including like at the bus stop. I remember specifically one Black girl named Kimberly Clark, because later on in life, at public restrooms, there's a company called Kimberly Clark that is like does all the paper towels, and I always think of her. I'm like, I wonder how Kimberly Clark is. Anyway, we then moved out of that diverse area to an all-white area where I spent the rest of my life. So, could not wait to get away from all that diversity and into a warmer, more homogenous white kind of place where you don't have to worry about anything.
honestly, for me, the
Except
best thing I ever
leeches in
did
the
for
creek.
myself was leave Rhode Island, and get the exposure. Now, when I go home, I'm sure everyone thinks power to the people. Will she shut the hell up? But I can't. We were just in a bubble and we didn't think of it.
You were radicalized.
I wasn't prepared for how the world was going to perceive me.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I could leave here and feel like I did myself a good service.
Does anybody else, this is an interesting topic and question too. Francis, you moved around a lot, so I feel like we've talked about this before, but does anybody else have an example of a kind of culture shock where you went and worked or lived in a community? Obviously, both you and Vikki moved around a lot, I know. And so I wonder if you ever were immersed in a culture or a city or a community where, learned a lot because of that diversity. I feel like, Vikki, you can talk about the gay community in San Francisco in the 80s and how much that affected you and changed you and made you think about stuff. I feel like that's one of the more interesting things about your life, which there's a lot. But either of you ever had that experience living somewhere where you're around people that were a lot different, that you're like, oh, I like this. I like learning about this and I like these people and I'm going to stay here for a minute. Vikki.
Were you...
I'm like, you, me, you.
Sorry. Did a terrible job hosting.
So what was interesting to me was when moving to San Francisco, the Bay Area from Ohio, my best friend Michael and I arrived there within weeks of each other. It was like about 2 week span. We'd never met each other. He lived near Cleveland, Ohio, and I lived in Toledo. But we ended up working in a little pool, and he was on one side and I was on the other side. And
a swimming pool?
Yes, we worked in a swimming pool.
I mean, I don't know what
we don't swim. No, just
Kimberly said that she was in an all black pool. I was going to make the joke then.
I am. No, and Michael wasn't black, so
Michael and you both live in Ohio, and you don't even know each other, but you both moved to California, and that's how you meet him, while working at a pool where you were on either side for some reason. I don't know what you were doing at the pool. Were you lifeguards?
So imagine a row of desks, and they're stuck together, and you call it either a pool or a bullpen. So he was on one side, I was on the other side.
Oh, it was an office.
Yes.
It wasn't a swimming pool.
It was not a swimming pool.
Because why would you be on either side? So you guys worked in an office across from each other.
Yes.
And go ahead. What did you learn? What was this experience?
And Michael was the very first time I was exposed up close to somebody who was gay. There'd always been rumors about different people,
right?
But he was the first gay man I'd ever met in my life. And we immediately fell in love with each other. And we would have just the best time. Oh, my God.
Aww.
I'm sorry.
Don't be.
No, I brought you to it because I knew that he was really important, and I knew that experience really did change you and affect you. How did it change you? How did he affect you? How did he change you?
I was never exposed to gay people. I knew nothing about gay culture. And just from going out and hanging out with him and going dancing, and there's nothing like the way a room full of gay men treat you. They're just kind and complimentary. And
oh, I know.
Yes. And I wasn't, at the time, I didn't drink, but they would always buy me drinks. And I mean, it was just great. And just to get to know them and to get to know their stories and how they came out, for each one that would share their stories about how they come out, and how Michael's story was so sad about his dad chasing him and throwing rocks at him. I mean, it was just terrible, but learning about gay culture was huge for me. And I'll never forget him. He'll always be my best friend, and I'll always hold him in my heart, and I miss him every single day.
I want to see a picture of you and him. I'm visualizing him. Francis.
I sent you a picture.
What about you? Did you have an experience living? You moved around several times, right? You lived in a few different places. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have two. I mean, the big one was going to college at UNCG. So I came from Oklahoma State. Greensboro, yes. And I wasn't used to being around as much diversity as many Black people in general. I think the last time would have been when I was about 6 in Philly, when I actually lived in Philadelphia. And that was something that was big because what I realized was that I had this competition mindset. So seeing other Black people in class was like competition. If you're sitting there and you're able to articulate yourself this way, you're getting attention, then you are my nemesis and I need to be better than you, which is problematic, very problematic.
Sure.
And it wasn't until meeting my roommates and my friends and people that lived on the floor with me, other Black women, that I was like, oh no, there's power. There's so much power here, and that Black girl magic and just loving and embracing Blackness. And I didn't get that until the G. Fast forward to me moving to Asheville, North Carolina, where there's very few people of color around here. It's mind-boggling. But the thing that I get here is getting experience with trans culture. And so when I go to other cities, I get weirded out because I'm like, I haven't seen a person that might be non-binary in a while. I haven't seen a person that might have a beard and be wearing a dress. And that's just a culture shock. This is now a culture shock to me.
Interesting.
People that everybody just looks uniform outside of Asheville. And I really love the lack of uniform nature here.
I love this conversation. I love this topic and all of your answers. It's great. I'm cognizant of the time and we have to wrap it up soon. I want to have some fun with you. Go ahead.
Real quickly before you have fun, I do want to acknowledge we're talking about uplifting our voices as Black women and
no, we're not.
Touching story. I just want to acknowledge the passing of Nikki Giovanni. And I think it would be really remiss for us as the Hue not to acknowledge her passing and just her impactful contribution, her words, and just her profoundness and her ability to go at someone in a way that she would cut with a knife with her tongue. And it was just so much there that I think when we talk about all that we just spoke to, it's on the shoulders of giants like her that we have to remind ourselves who's going to replace that voice.
I'm going to edit that interruption out. But did you know of Nikki Giovanni? I didn't know. You all knew of her growing your whole lives?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Karen did not. Karen was not familiar with. I wasn't familiar with her either until she died yesterday. And
when I got here, absolutely.
Oh, when you got to DC, you were.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Yesterday I played PBS NewsHour entire 5 minutes about it, but I didn't know of her, and I saved this poem that really impacted me when I read it yesterday. Just the first line. It's a journey that I propose. I am not the guide, nor technical assistant. I will be your fellow passenger. I just love that. It really speaks to me, and so did learning about the rest of her work. So I'm glad that you took a moment. I'm sorry I'm going to have to edit that out for time. Nikki Giovanni is their name. No one's ever going to hear it. That's wonderful.
We spent 20 minutes talking about all the places we've been.
We got to get to the sponsorships, and there's just not enough. So sorry.
Ridiculous.
Don't play into his silliness.
Okay.
We're going to sit here. I bet you, please don't. I'd rather you keep that in than Sidney Poitier, because God knows he don't need to be uplifted.
Oh, wow. Do you want to take another shot at Sidney Poitier? I wasn't expecting that. We're raising up Nikki Giovanni and knocking down.
Fine. Nothing he has done. He's not Bill Cosby, so he's all right.
Wow. That is a
lot of people aren't Bill Cosby.
Hallelujah.
Can you edit that out? Like, let's not have their two names in the same sentence.
Right, please.
Jesus.
Right. He's not Puff Daddy, so like he's fine.
Oh my God.
Shame.
It's
the
like
shame
original Puff. Okay.
It's like comparing Rob Schneider to the Unabomber, for God's sake. That's not like that at all, because no one respects Rob Schneider. All right, so I don't know. I'm not good at metaphors. I'll edit that out. All right, finally, it is that time of year, and I want to know how you're dealing with December and the holidays. Do they stress you out? Or are you happy? You're looking forward to it? We're 10 days from the shortest day of the year, so the darkness gets to people. But I'm finding all kinds of ways to cope, including planting seeds under lights and seeing like little plants come up. I like that in the dearth of winter. But holidays are stressful or not. What is your general feeling this time of year? And do you have a tree? Are you a tree person? Let's go to Frances first because she has a tree in her shot. She loves Christmas. It looks like a perfect tree, so I'm going to guess it's not a real. It's perfectly shaped. Yeah.
Everybody. That almost seems like discrimination. When I'm on these calls, everybody has to comment on whether it's real or not.
Well, what is the debate
why
on
you
it?
got to be talking about my tree
It's
like
a
that?
Christmas tree. That's all that counts.
Open the
I paid
debate.
money for it.
Open
It's
the debate.
real.
Maybe this could become really divisive. I would love to see some real feelings hurt on that debate, real or fake tree. Does anybody want to make a case for?
So why is it a fake tree? It's still a tree. It's just not.
Well, it's made of
plantable.
petroleum. The main ingredient is petroleum.
Here.
Oh, wow.
So I don't understand the sense of paying $180 for a tree that's already dead when you cut it.
Is that the cost of
so
a real tree?
$180? Like, that's very expensive.
$180 for a real tree?
If you
Next
go to
year.
some of those farms and
Where are
cut
you
it down
going?
yourself, that's what I had heard. You know I'm not getting. I'm not getting a tree.
Well, they lying to you. That's
Okay,
apparently
well,
the fake tree market.
$180.
No, what did Desiree say she paid for that tree
Oh, she lives in
the
like
other day?
LA, right?
That was expensive.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get those trees in LA. I have no idea. So wait, you're
But
saying
all I'm saying is, I will be damned if I step
I don't know.
on the
tree farm?
the needles of a tree in August and draw blood. I'm not doing it.
Oh wow, that is a dry foot. I would submit first of all, but
You
second of
don't.
all, just saying.
You don't get to talk about dry skin.
You're the one who said your foot opens on a pine needle that's 6 months
No,
old.
because
I
it's
mean,
dry
that
and
is
sharp, and it.
Why are you
Don't even try
barefoot?
and flip it, Pete. You don't know anything
You have
about moisturizing
I
your
didn't
body.
say I did.
So you have no standing to say anything about any dry part about it.
well, maybe
which
you
is
should
non-existent.
take a little page out of my book because no pine
Find
needle has ever
shea
cut
butter
through
and talk to me.
my foot in any time.
Find some shea butter and talk to me.
Okay, so fake tree, real tree. Fake tree, real tree. Any other thoughts on this? Kimberly, what do you have?
A tree in a box still from last year that hasn't yet been opened.
You have not put out your tree. Why? It's December. We're taping this on December 11th. Do you need help? Do you need support?
It's in the basement. At this point, it's almost Christmas next week. 2 weeks from now, I'm like,
You're not going to do it.
At this point, it's too late.
Okay.
I should have did this. I gotta still fix the hole in the wall in my bathroom.
Fair
so
enough. All right. Well, know your priorities.
This is the size of my tree.
Karen has a very small tree. So you don't have a full.
And I am a fake tree person because
And change the battery so when I turn it on and the glitter flows through the tree.
Wow. The way
There's
she's
your Christmas spirit.
moving her hands makes it really sound nice.
I'm just gonna tell you, my dad did bring in a live tree one season, and my mom told him if he comes back with another live tree the following year, he and that tree is gonna be outside on the curb.
Yeah, because of the needles.
It's just, she was just like, nah, that's not something we need. Like, you ain't picking up all these needles. So,
Right. So it sounds like nobody really here likes the needles. That's the big issue. I don't mind.
They're
the needles.
messy.
They're really easy to clean, I find.
No, they're not.
Yeah, I'm big on cleaning. I would
you gotta
know.
keep them hydrated. You gotta worry about them setting fire to the house. I mean, trees are meant to be outdoors, right?
And
Yes,
those
that's a good-
needles get in the like the loops of your carpet. It's not
The
easy.
hell kind of carpet you
a
have?
carpet house.
Stop it, Pete!
carpet.
Like you're acting
Yeah.
like you never had this happen to you.
I mean, I've had it happen. I just didn't see so much adversity around cleaning up the needles. I mean, it smells good. I like a real tree. I'm
There's
alone.
scent for that.
Candle.
There's a scent
have
for
that
that.
too,
We
yeah.
can
Get a
make sure we
candle.
send it to you too.
Yeah. And on candles, are we all candle people?
I just did the sale.
You bought
Did
candles
you?
on
How
a
many
sale?
candles did you get? What was the deal?
So it was, you couldn't get up to 24. I didn't get 24 candles,
Jeez,
but
what are you doing?
did
Having a
buy-
seance? Some kind of
I
sacrifice?
did get a dozen. Yeah, it's like the annual bath.
Go ahead.
Bath.
What's the name of the store?
Say that again.
What is it? What's the store name?
Bath and Body Works.
Is
Got
it
it.
3 letters or 4?
She said Bath.
No. BAF?
Okay,
Please
so
don't cut this. I'm sorry.
I'm not
I
cutting.
went to Bath. What is it? Bath and Body Works. I went to Bath and Body Works. Thank God I was safe. I went to Bath and Body Works.
What did you get?
They had their annual Christmas, annual holiday, $9.95 for the 3-wick candles, and I bought a dozen.
Wow, look at you with your. That's serious
Yeah,
investment.
this office is surrounded by nothing.
And everybody else, candles. Quick preference: which candle and where do you get them? And does quality matter, Francis?
I was doing Bed Bath and Beyond. I did it. See, Bath and Body Works candles. But I also found this really great place that's local to Waynesville around here. However, it was spitting out so much soot that I had it all on my face. I looked like I was like a chimney sweeper or something, like a newsie or something from what year was that? I don't know.
Your candle?
1910. Yeah, and I had to tell Sean, the boyfriend, the white boyfriend, like, bro, you're going to have a bunch of darkness all around our faces because I smoked out
keep
my
him
house
away
with
from
the
that candle. He's going to get canceled.
What kind of candle is where?
Yeah. I didn't cut the wick because you have to make sure you cut the wicks down before you light
my God.
it.
I don't
didn't
burn
cut
them.
it.
Sean lit a candle, and after about an hour, he looked like Ted Danson.
Use a candle warmer?
I use candle warmer. I use a candle warmer. I don't have to burn my candles.
What
I
is a
warm them.
candle warmer? The hell?
You warm it like a plate. It's like a plate that warms the candle from bottom up versus you lighting the candle from the wick.
Yeah.
Also,
So I got one of those because I got a pretty candle and I want to keep the container afterwards.
I'm sorry. Wait. I'm sorry. Stop.
It liquefies the candle.
You don't light the wick ever?
No, I take the wick out after. Actually,
None of
once
you
it
light
gets-
the wick of your candle?
I do both.
You have there's a plate that you put under, and it causes the candle to.
Melt.
All of you know this, and I'm not familiar with this. I'm going to get a candle plate. That's what I'm asking for Christmas.
Candle warmer.
Candle warmer.
I said it right.
That's smart.
Candle.
So, look at this pretty candle.
Oh,
that's
that
very
is pretty.
It's a very nice container. I would like to reuse this. This would be really cute. So good. You put it on the candle warmer.
Yeah.
It's warm, so it melts the wax.
Yeah, but it's
And
not
it
like
goes from bottom up because the plate is on
And
the
it gives
bottom.
off more of a scent than, or in addition to lighting the wick, which Kimberly does not do, but everybody else does.
It's different.
Okay. I wasn't even familiar with this. See, you learn a lot here at The Hue, and we've covered a lot of ground. Very consequential issues, less consequential, but you've takeaways for all of them. I mean, this is really beneficial for everybody.
I got that when I was in college because
The candle warmer plate?
Yeah, because you weren't allowed to light candles because it was a fire hazard. So then, and my roommate stank. So.
Oh, yeah. My roommate said that about his roommate. Okay, well, ladies, I am so grateful to you for all joining me tonight. Last words, final thoughts. Anyone who wants to start with anything about anything. I love what you mentioned about Nikki Giovanni. That's a great thing. Anything else in the world, in the news, in your world that you want to mention or else?
What's your favorite Christmas cookie?
Oh, wow. That's a whole nother 20 minutes.
Ooh. Oh.
Sugar cookie.
Yum.
I like that one where you put your thumb in it and then you put jelly in it.
Aren't those like
you
thumbprint
have a
cookies
cookie
or
and
something?
they're Italian,
Huh?
I think. You
Huh?
you have a cookie and you push your thumb in, you make like a reservoir, and then you fill that with jelly. That's the cookie.
Yes.
They're called something.
So,
Do you cook it
I don't
after?
do anything. I don't want to be in this conversation. I would have never
I'm
brought
just
that up. I don't do.
asking, do you
She asked
cook
me
it?
which cookie. I don't know if you cook it. I just.
don't bring your Scrooge attitude over here while we're
She said,
talking
"What's
about
your
Christmas.
favorite cookie?" And now you're asking me how to make it.
But is it raw dough you're putting your thumb in?
I don't know how it's.
So you got all his germs in the
Test
cookie.
it first. But nowadays we would wear gloves, but Pete might not.
If Karen,
They're
if Karen was-
legit.
if Karen had one of those cookies and she was next to me, I would jam my thumb right in it post cook.
We know.
It's legit called a thumbprint cookie. I don't know.
Is it?
Where you're getting this Italian part from, but yeah, it's
I thought
a
it was
thumbprint
I thought my
cookie,
aunt
man.
made it up. She's Italian.
So my mom used to make this it was called like an egg biscuit.
Ooh.
But then you would dip it in some sort of sugar thing afterwards. And it was like a twirly cookie. It was really good.
It might be too specific. What's your favorite Christmas treat? And then we'll wrap it up. You said favorite cookie, but I'm going to widen it to favorite Christmas treat of all. And is it something that you would have throughout the season? For the next couple of weeks, you may partake in, say, a nog. Are we nog people? No. Sorry.
No, I do white trash.
What's that?
I got it from a nice Southern lady, And it's pretzels, pecans, cashews, white chocolate. And you mix it all together, and it ends up looking like trash, but it is delicious.
All right.
It's delicious.
White trash, it's called.
Yes.
You got to be careful when you're talking about that. Different company. Hey, do you have any more of those white trash? You walk into a bakery. I'll take a dozen white trash. Thank you. Miss,
all right.
Miss, this is a Panera?
I like peppermint bark.
Ooh.
Oh, you should. You knew saying that was going to cause a controversy.
Why? It's chocolate
like
and mint.
bark.
I don't want a whole candy cane. I don't want a whole.
Who wants?
It's gross.
Who does want a whole candy cane? It's
chocolate
anybody.
And milk, chocolate and mint.
Hold on.
I mean, chocolate and
Vikki,
mint.
you eat a whole candy cane?
Of course I eat a whole candy cane. Doesn't everybody?
Do you turn it in? Did you keep sucking it until it becomes so pointed that it's a dagger?
That's my style. I make it into a weapon.
No, you break it.
Oh, wow. That sounds sacrilegious right there. I wouldn't break. I don't think you're supposed to break the cane. That's bad luck to break a candy cane I just made up.
Then that's why my life is the way it is.
Good night,
You're
everybody.
so good that you outweigh.
Good night.
Your goodness outweighs any sort of thing like that. But yeah, peppermint bark gives you a little bit of the candy cane with some chocolate. You could do white chocolate pepper with the bark, or you could do chocolate with the pepper. It's all delicious.
If you do white chocolate with the bark, it's a different name. It's upper class white, as opposed to the white trash cookie. I'll take some of the upper affluent white bark. Thank you.
Ooh. Affluent bark.
Yeah.
She said white trash. I don't know what the opposite of trash is, but I think
privilege bar.
I'll take some of that sophisticated white bark.
Yes. I don't know.
It's delicious. I'll send you some.
All right, ladies. Thank you very, very much. I'm ending for now, but don't go anywhere. You guys are the best. Round of applause, everybody.
Love y'all.
Love you.
This is great.
I like cookies.
I'm here.
Oh, yeah. Kimberly reminded us there at the end. We didn't get to her take on treats and cookies. Oh, it's so good. Thank you so much, ladies. If you want to learn more about them, you can find out in the show notes. And if you want to contact them, reach out to me if you can't for any other reason. And they're often at our Hangouts, most of them. Always happy to see them there and have them here on the show. I look forward to more episodes in the future. What a real privilege and honor it is to be friends with them and have that conversation with them. I hope that you loved it as much as I did. I know they did. And we're so thankful to have you listening and supporting it. All right, well, I hope to see you at noon today. I'm going to go live as well as 8 p.m. tonight. There's a Hangout, and I'm hosting that. Tomorrow looks like I'll have David Rothkopf. I think I've got Eric Segall joining me again this week. Wendell Potter, hopefully on healthcare and more. Who do you want to hear? Let me know. standupwithpete@gmail.com. Jon Carroll writes and performs all the music for this show. JonCarroll.org. Go find him. Go buy him and pay him money for this music. Take it away, John.
You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in